All right, welcome back, everyone. I got all the wires arranged by their sizes, and just so you know, I believe I have a 9 centimeter, 25 centimeter, 50 centimeter, 75, 100, and 150 centimeters. So mostly 100s and mostly 150s. Those are kind of my go-to wires. They'd probably seem a little long normally, but if you're tucking them around everywhere, it's actually not so bad. So um, I did some testing actually. I did some testing just now on the AJH synth Finalizar Req. It's weird. I thought it was stereo. I didn't read the instructions well enough. It is left and right input, left and right output, but you won't get the EQ and the enhancer on the right channel. So I was using it mono and splitting it, inputting mono, outputting stereo. I get like this weird squibbly squabbly artifact sound from the left channel. So I tested it alone, just with my audio output device, just alone with headphones, through different power supplies in the case. There's 4 of them in here. I used a couple different power strips running up into the case for the power cord, and nothing seemed to help. So it looks like I'll email back and see if it's still a problem with the module. Maybe I need like a Furman power conditioner or something like that. I am in a house. But in the meantime, we're going to just use this. We'll use the left mono in, which gets us the EQ and the enhancer and the reverb. And then we'll just output the right channel, which doesn't have the artifact. So either way, we'd be mono anyways. So, I mean, it'll all work out. Anyway, so the next step, I know where I want all the mods, and I'm going to put them all in the case. And I'm also going to go ahead and plug them in, making sure I've got the red stripes to the bottom of the connector on the distributor board on the negative 12 volt rail. So I'll hook those up while I do this. Now, a couple of these, like I said, I'm going to mount them, and then a few of them I'm going to leave unmounted as far as the screws go. But these in the center I definitely want intact. I left the top one loose a little bit. I'm going to push that all the way towards that one. Tighten it up. Okay. Go ahead and lock up the air diffusion. It doesn't need to move. I can kind of work around a lot of these. All these are okay. These two I want to leave loose. These two I want to leave loose. These guys I want to leave loose. I'll leave the Symphonian loose. Don't have to. I can lock in the Pamela. And I'll probably put a couple in the neutrons. Just enough to lock the channel rail, threaded rails in. Okay, so that's all locked in. That's locked in. The center here is locked in. These three can be locked in. And since nothing's plugged in on this this rail so far, I'll get these two in, and then I'll push them in towards each other before I tighten them down all the way. This I replaced with a giant knob, so I won't be able to do that one. So. Okay. Next I'm gonna lock these in place, and I'm gonna lock this one in place. Okay, so these are locked in. These are locked in. This one can move because I'm gonna have to sneak some wires through there. It's not locked in good. Okay. This one's kind of free to move, but it'll likely end up like right here, about here. This can be locked down. It's not too bad though. I'll just leave it for now. I'll leave both these open. Both these move. These two move. Everything else is locked down. That way I can kind of get some small hands to do this, but yeah, I can reach in here. And I can pass wires to myself. Okay. Okay, now while I have all the wires off, I'd like to really quick explain all of the modules, since they're really easy to see without the wires around. I have two Behringer neutrons, the dual oscillators. They have a whole bunch of things built into them. They're semi-modular. I have Pamela's new workout, which I'm using to send LFOs, which are just like waves of electric voltage you can use to control everything on your Eurorack that says CVN. Okay. And I also use it for start and stop. Start and reset for the Symphonian, for the sequencers, for the bit boxes. So, moving right along. Okay, the synthesis technology E370. It is a 4 oscillator synth, so I can get 4 different tones out of this and have a lot of control for each of them. And then I have an attack, decay, sustain, and release, and ADSR, which I will use with this. I've got 2 4MS. These are passive multis. So I have the option of either 1 input and 6 outputs. It's basically a combiner. It's a splitter. Or I can use 2 inputs with 3 outputs each. And then this is a Synthrotech combine or kit that I got. But I did solder this up as a multi instead of a combiner. So if you look on the page that tells you how to build this, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's 2 comments. The first comment is, hey, if I do this and this, does it make it a mult? And then there's another guy comment that says, yeah. So what you do is you don't put all the diodes on. Instead, you clip one of the leads off of each side of the diodes, and where you're supposed to put the diode, you just make a jumper, okay, and solder those on. You do not put the resistors on, and then you just solder up all the sockets, and that's it. Make sure you test every single one of them, and be careful when you do your leads. I had a kind of fat blob had dripped through, because I like to put solder so it goes through the other way, but I had a pretty good sized blob on the other side, and it made contact with one of the socket leads. So I had to take a butter knife and kind of saw it down, but it worked out fine. But just make sure and test them. I got really lucky where it's right on the edge and I could see it. So I did have to unscrew all those and then put them all back on. But yeah, I'd like to see this come back. I think they stopped making these, but I really like this mod. It's simple, doesn't plug in, just splits stuff everywhere, which is great. Symphonian. This is the orchestrator, the conductor of the orchestra, if you will. There may be some confusion from the other videos that I've done about the Symphonian. I just want to iterate again. This doesn't actually make any sound. And only one channel kind of is constantly spitting out voltages. That's the chord channel. And the arpeggio can either go with your master clock, and it'll move around from the master clock, or you can send an individual clock to it, and it'll step each time you send a click to it. Otherwise, I have to send voltages in from somewhere to control 1, 2, and 3. So I have to send a voltage in, I get a voltage out. So all this is just basically a magical conductor hijacker of anything that you program with your voltage sequencers. Okay? And then your voltage sequencers are going to go to your synths. Okay, so moving along. This is the Joe Mox Mod Bass 09 bass drum module, which I'm not quite sure what's up with this thing. But I'll digress. Erica Fusion voltage controlled filter has 3 inputs. I'm using that for my drums, kick drums. So I'll have volume for each of those, and I have a 12 dB cutoff and a 24 dB filter and or 12 dB filter. I don't know if that's 24 or 12 pole. Yeah, so I don't know everything. I've got one Metron, which is by itself, and it basically just controls 16 tracks in here. which I will get into later, and then also just a kick channel for the bass drum. I have a second Metron. It's basically for this drum machine, but it's got 2 Volteras connected to it. One of them is used to send to the synths, so I can sequence their voltage tones, and then I have a second one which I just plan to use for step recordings of voltages. Sorry. Yes, so the second one I just plan on using for step sequencing some voltages. It's kind of the same line as what I was talking about here with Pamela's new workout, except for the most part, these will just be kind of steady moving. Where here I'll kind of program in more jerky movements for the bass or things like that. I have an Erica Fusion plasma drive, which is neat, and I use this exclusively as an effect for the Lifeforms primary oscillator. Next I have a AJH synth Finalizar EQ. What that does is this is kind of this is my mastering chain for right now. So it's got a reverb, an equalizer, and an enhancer. It does cut everything down to mono though. So maybe I'd like to get another one. I guess that's the only way you can get stereo. You can get stereo, like I said earlier, but you only get it. Only one channel gets the equalizer and the enhancer. So that's fine. I guess if you want stereo on your rig, you need to have 2 of these. Which it only gets a couple wires. So if I get another like the bass case, hold on. Yeah. So if I were to get the bass additional case for this for this Doper case, I'd probably get 2 of these. It's only got a couple wires going to it. Over here I have my output. It's a journal log stereo line output TX2, and then I have an Expert Sleepers little mic'y, which is my mic input, which I'm not using right now because everything's unpowered, obviously. My Patreon gave me this is Mutable Instruments Branches, which it's a dual mod, same function. You have an input, you have a coin flip probability knob, you have 2 outputs. So I use those in the samplers typically for drums, or for like a cymbal crash, because you can really make it where put a cymbal crash in it, then you can put just some other sound in it that's not so abrasive. Hang on. It's a garbage truck and he's just circling the block, I think. Yeah, so what you can do is you can make it so rarely ever does your cymbal crash hit, which is nice. You have 16 pages of 16 steps that you can do for your songs, which I plan to do on every single song. I want as long of a loop as I can. But then you can also make that loop seem even longer. You could also do the same thing in here by using probability. So you could have that cymbal crash on the 1, and then you could go to probability and say, give me a 25% chance of hitting, and then only every 4 times likely is it going to hit. Okay, so yeah, the branches. I've got 2 bit boxes, which are 16 trigger sequencers with 4 mono outputs, which is really nice. And so I exclusively use the first output, which is down here for some reason. But I use the first output for kicks, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 3 on each one to then send to the mixer. And I'll show you when I hook that up. I'll show you how I send the kick drums off, but then in one track I send both of output 1s, in one track I send both of output 2s, and in the last track I send both of output 3s, and then I have an A-B switch. So it's really nice to be able to just start with part of the drums, and you've only got one switch on, and then you can just switch to hearing both of them. And then with just one hearing on the next one, you bring in the 3rd element, and then switch in the 4th element. Same thing. 5th element, switch in the 6th element. It's really cool. So yeah, This mixer is great. Yeah, Symphonian, mixer, sequencers, definitely the big things that got me into this. And the bitboxes are pretty cool too. I found that I can't load in 16 samples. I can only load in about 12, so I leave 4 cells open. Once I seem to break the 12th sample threshold, stuff out of output 1 will start to sound like your DAW does when you have too much processing power and not enough buffer on your sound card. Yeah, and it's, you start to hear that crackly artifacts and distortion and skipping and stuff. So that happens with these, I guess, once you run out of DSP processing. They do have a Mark II coming out, which is rad. I don't have them though. Yeah, so right, we have the Wmd Mixer, which I'm not going to get it's a mixer. I could do an hour review of the features of this. Yep, and then I have a Quadigy, a Clavis Quadigy, which is a 4 input, 4 channel, 4 output ADSR. So it's kind of like this one, where this one's just really simple, cut and dry, and this is a lot of features to go with it. And then finally, I have a Erogenous Tones VC8, which is a really cool voltage controlled amplifier. I couldn't do a review on this because I would just sound like a 2-year-old trying to explain a microwave. But what I can do is, I got 8 channels of voltage controlled amps, so that's what it is. It's great to have them all in one place in a nice tight mod. And then right in the corner, you probably can't even see it, I have another 4MS multi right here. So that's what everything is. I've got bound for these 2 areas on order. I have Expert Sleeper's Disting EXs, which I plan to use as effects processors, delays and reverbs and things like that. Super stoked about. Yeah, and it might need 4 of them instead of 2, but we'll see how it goes. They look really powerful, nice and compact, and right what I need. I lack effects in here. Everything else is going pretty good. If anybody has any suggestions for me, I'm still pretty new, so if you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments. And yeah, I'd love to learn more. Yep, I recommend the Symphonian for anybody. And once you get that, Colin Bender made some good videos, which also introduced me to him via YouTube. And of course, Matthias Kettner's tutorial videos. Yeah, those will be studied for years. So also, we started a Facebook group, so you can search Symphonian Facebook, join the group. Okay, so without further ado, I got my wires organized and they're kind of hanging all around me, pretty much within arm's reach. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to get my starts and my resets wired up. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I need a lot of starts. So I'm actually gonna take a very small cable. Let's plug it into one. Oh, you know what we should do first? Before we start wiring everything up, I'm gonna turn it on. I'm just gonna do a visual check, make sure everything comes on, and I don't smell toast. So here we go. It's always a nerve-wracking thing. Lights, 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 lights. Nothing. Lights, nothing. Lights, lights, nothing. Okay. Okay, I figured it out. Okay, if you have a Metron, that won't turn on because you've just been messing with it. I don't know if you can see this on the screen. There is a toggle switch. If you take it from its top orientation, it's this corner. It's a toggle switch. It says USB and norm. And somehow that little guy got switched. I bet if I turn my case off, back on, I don't have to have a heart attack. Oh, I should put the Terminator back on. Oh, phew. So, let's try that again. Oh, beautiful. Okay, wow. Okay, sweating now. Okay. So, to the best of my knowledge, everything is plugged in and working. So, I'm going to turn it back off. I just wanted to test it before I got too far in. So, remember, the first thing we were going to do is we were going to take our clock out of Pam's new workout. We're going to go into this multi here, okay? And then we're going to immediately even though I don't have to go real far, I still want to use some bit longer cables. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that's a clock input right there for the Symphonian. Might be able to get away with that same size one here. And what I like to do is these kind of have a natural curve to them. Kind of like to just let it do its thing, right? And then it's going to go to the clock in here. Just because of how far this one's got to stretch, I'm gonna use a bit longer one. I would use a 75. I actually don't have any 75. I was wrong, so I'm jumping right from 50 to 100, which is fine. But what I'll do in this instance is I'm just gonna drop this down in there somewhere. It's probably really cringy for a lot of people. I don't care. It's the way I like to do it. I do not like wire panic attack. Okay, there's our clock in. I'm going to give this nice. I know that I'm going to have a bunch going this way, so I kind of set it up like that. Set this one up in the corner like that. Okay, see? That's nice. These will eventually, this one will kind of turn this way. This one will stay up like that. But when I'm done, what I'll do, and the reason I have these not screwed in is when I'm done, I'll push these as far as I can, then I'll lock them in. Just snuggle it in. Okay? So, trigger. Got to get some triggers to the bit boxes. It will clock, and also it doesn't have a reset. I would like if the MIDI in could have an option to be a reset when you're using the clock. That would be great. Otherwise, unless you have a long stop of clicks, it will just keep on counting up to thousands of steps. So I'd like to see it kind of keep up with the rest. It would give me a really nice visual. I'd like to see this show just 1 2 3 4 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4, but it has some weird, still trying to wrap my brain around how it's trying to count clocks for me. So okay, moving along. Two of these. So these are this is 100. I need to get to here from here. So I usually start down here, pass it to my other hand, and just be really gentle to move my hand around in there and not scrape anything. Now, at this point, we would make a decision with this multi because we have the option of we have 1 input, 6 outputs, or 2 inputs individually with 3 outputs each. I need a lot of clocks, so I'm just going to continue on through. I'm going to leave this one, which would be the second input. I'm going to leave it unpopulated, and that continues with the clocks in this direction. At this point, I might let this one cross upwards because that gets it nice and looser for me. And I might cross over these guys over top because it's nice and loose. See that? It's not really mushing anything. And then I'll just, holding this up here, just kind of tuck this guy, and you can kind of feed it like this, and I'll just kind of feed it back into the case. I think the wire's kind of going up around here right now, and where I want that to go. And I might even, yep, and this is just going to plug into my clock. And I'll probably want that one like that. It'll be a little tense on it, but I don't want to do it up this way because I don't want it to be in the way of those knobs. So just like that, right? We got a second one. I think that's going to be long enough. For this, I have a, it's easy when you have a couple good spaces in your case. If you don't, there's another way you can do it by just leaving everything unscrewed. And you can, if you had to get from here to here, you could just plug it in and then simply lay your line across and then just lift up one mod at a time and kind of tuck it in, tuck it in, tuck it in, and then pop out a much smaller space. So we'll get into that once the case is full again, but for now, hopefully you have a little bit of extra space so you can fit your hands gently through. Yeah. So if you see little scrapes on my hand, it's either from some of the leads or from my cat. Anyways, I digress. Here, I just want to drop in here, and I'll just grab that with my fingertips. Okay? And what I'll do is I'll start the first part that's going to be my clock, and I'm going to leave a nice, good amount of slack right here. Okay? And then there's going to be a lot of wires doing this. But I just want to kind of take it, and I want to fold it like that inside. I don't know if you can see, but I just kind of want to do this thing to it, right? Because I want it to just gently fit through everything. I don't want to force it through anything. And sometimes you'll see where you can drop it around a power wire and it'll be helpful, right? I don't have to go real far, so I don't have to pull it much. And I just want to drop this back around here. And I'm going to come in from the top again, like so. Get in right there, okay? All right. Okay, now, what I want to do is, I want to do the resets now. I need 1, 2, 3. I need 3 resets, so I'm just going to use one of these. Okay. And I think I can jump over there with a short 9 millimeter. I think I can do that. So there, there. Okay. And resets. This one I could definitely do with a 25. You could probably jump this with a short one, but the problem is I'm going to be moving this mod around as I put stuff in here. So I'm going to go with the long one. I'm still just going to dip it in there a little bit. And this is going to be reset. Now, if you have a Symphonian and your reset is going to be input 1, and then in your menu you choose that input 1 is reset reset the sequencer. That's what you're resetting in here is the, maybe you make a sequence of 4 different chords, 2 different chords, whatever. And if you stop to do something in the middle of that, you want it to obviously start in the beginning again when you hit play again. So that's what the reset's for, and that does that for these also. Okay. And this one I want to drop down, but not too much, because I'm going to have a lot passing through this under here from the Metrons, lots. Okay. So I'll just kind of let that hang, and that needs to be input 1. So I can let that stay at the top. It really doesn't matter. I want them varied throughout, but I just want it nice and loose. I don't want to be pulling down on these or anything. I've already had a couple failures with these. So I have two failures, I believe, out of 140. And I need more, but everybody's out. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put that in the Metron's reset in and just let that hang. And same thing with this one. Bring it around. Actually, I want to bring it through what I've got already. And I think I'll come from the top. See, I'll come from the top like that. And then I'm going to move these to the side, because remember I just swooped it through the middle, and I can actually pull it between here, and it gets me a nice line coming out of here with these out of the way. I'm going to be doing this a lot. I'm going to be moving a couple out of the way to pull some in that fit along with some of the other ones. So that's our reset in, right? It's already starting to look nice and tentacly. Now that's all three of those plugged in. So at this point, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to test it. So turn the case on. 2 Metrons, it gave me a heart attack. Okay, now what we should be able to do, we got the BPM set at 122. I should be able to hit start, and you should see these start. These have a clock on them. It's counting. You probably can't see it, but it's like at 10, 11. It'll just count up to, it counts in 4s, and it'll just count up to oblivion in 4s. And then this should just start playing too. You'll see the sequences go through here, but you probably won't be able to see it from these camera angles. But anyway, playing, they're both playing. This reset because now it's at 3, 4, and that is cycling. So it's on its second step now. I'm going to wait till the third step, and I'm going to stop it. It should be soon. Third step, I'm going to stop. And I just want to make sure these are at 1, 1, 1. I don't know what that means. Oh, I think it's page 1, step 11. Okay. And I'll just hit start again. I want to make sure that that resets. And it does. Okay, so everything seems good. Those reset also. Again, these only reset. There's no dedicated reset, but if the clock stops, it'll still keep going. But if it stops receiving a clock signal and then it receives a clock signal again, it will see that as a reset. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna turn this back off. All right. Okay, with that, I'm gonna take a break and transfer videos. We'll see you in the next part.